What's going on, ladies and gents? Dalibor here for T3G. Welcome to the Tangents Podcast. Also, Daily Coffee. Also, Panels on Pages. This is where we talk comic books every week on caffeine.tv/T3G Media. Today, we were supposed to have a guest, a considerable guest, if you would, creator of one of the indie books that I recently purchased, that is within the alphabet, actually, of how I've been going through my library. However, that was not fated for this week. Apparently, there was an emergency, and you got to handle what you got to handle. So, had to kind of, with the quickness, pick the next book we were going to be doing. Well, one of the next books. I'm kind of adjusting the alphabet because I'm trying to, get some different views on this. I'm trying to get some creators on. So I've got 3 books lined up that I'm trying to get creators for, kind of right here in the A's. So gotta go to the next A letter. So for those watching and listening in the future, we broadcast this on caffeine.tv/T3G Media every single Wednesday. Usually in the morning. It is rather late in the evening at this point, but that was the schedule, and once you cancel a late thing, you gotta kind of just do a late thing anyway. So yeah, we're gonna be talking heroes, Age of Heroes, the heroic age. But I want to tell you a story first. Let's go back to, let's call them the mid-70s, early to mid-70s. And it's really hard to compare. Marvel Universe timeline is so very skewed and very strange that it is incredibly difficult to actually know when it happened in the Marvel Universe. But many decades ago, the Illuminati, which I'll get into on another show, I'm sure, the Marvel's Illuminati, the original Illuminati, really kind of pissed off the Skrulls. And on that note, the Skrulls were like, you know what? Why don't we just go and invade? And aside from the kind of classic invasion attempts and wars and such that we dealt with, the Kree-Skrull War and things like that, I think this actually followed the Kree-Skrull War. They were like, you know what? Let's be a little, we're shapeshifters. Let's do it on the low. Let's keep it quiet. And then some stuff that was originally, I think, not meant to be all part of this, but the Secret Empire is the event that followed. Now, to precede the Secret Empire, what has happened is that the superhero civil war has occurred. Tony Stark has taken over the reins of S.H.I.E.L.D. There is the Avengers Initiative, which has placed a superhero team in every single state. And then we come to find out that a bunch of the heroes, a bunch of people, are all Skrulls. Not just like here and there, but so to get back to what I was saying before, what was going on along the line was in 1998, the heroes returned from the Reborn timeline. Again, something we'll talk about later. In that year, it would have been that year. It was pretty early on in the Captain America series. In the Captain America series, a Skrull, Cap, kind of tried to rally people against the Skrull menace, and they were just trying to bring up hate. It was a good story. It was a good read. However, that was meant to be a one-off. Similarly, in the X-Men books, due to some dimension and time hopping, the X-Men happened upon a moon of the Skrull homeworld just prior to its consumption by Galactus. Now, for those who know comic books, Galactus is the Devourer of Worlds. Not that gas thing that happened in Fantastic Four 2. That was no. But what that turned out to do is that they ended up bringing Skrull Wolverine home. I still don't really remember how that was all logicked, because Skrull Wolverine came down, but at the same time, Apocalypse got a hold of normal Wolverine. I don't know. It was very strange. Anyway, so again, this was another situation where what they found was this moon where they were training how to be heroes. They were, they had a team of Avengers roaming around and such. And essentially it was training grounds and teaching people how to properly act like the Marvel heroes. And at the time, I think this was intended to be a one-off, kind of a, oh man, wouldn't it be crazy? But then I feel like somebody read that story and picked it right up. So then what we end up with is Skrulls everywhere. One of the greatest lines ever uttered by Nicholas J. Fury, the original. Because the whole thing with the Skrulls, they were talking about their God, and he loves you, and blah blah blah. And they're like, our God will something something, and then he comes back around with, yeah, well, my God has a hammer. The reason that was important is because prior to this event, Thor was gone. Thor had been gone for a while. Welcome, Edley, to the broadcast. Before we go into the book, I'm just talking about the history leading up to it. Very long story short, due to a royal piss-off by the original Illuminati in Marvel, the Skrulls got royally ticked, and they decided to invade on the low. And down the line, Superhero Registration Act happens after the disassembly of the Avengers. During the disassembly of the Avengers, Thor disappeared, if I recall correctly, while he was gone during the Civil War. They created a fake Thor. And during the Secret Invasion, the Secret Empire storyline, rather, Nicholas J. Fury comes up with, yeah, well, my God has a hammer. Thanks to the recently returned Thor, who had, let me tell you, some words for Iron Man and Hank Pym and Reed Richards about the fake Thor. So upon that event, the public mistrust of pretty much all the heroes is kind of like at an all-time high. They say Tony Stark was in charge of the SHIELD. He's clearly got to be the one whose fault it is. He was also severely manipulated by the Skrull Queen, and was led to believe that he was a Skrull, and there's just a whole lot to that. So in their infinite wisdom, they empower Norman Osborn. To those who have been reading or watching comics or watching comic book related material, Spider-Man related material in particular, that Norman Osborn is a psychopath and a villain. But to the majority of people, he was still just a businessman, because apparently up until this point, he still had not been outed as the Green Goblin, which is crazy to me. Just insane. It's been 50, 60 years at this point. Anyway, they put him in charge. He, instead of running SHIELD, he disbands SHIELD and puts in operation an organization called Hammer. Hammer. Of course, it is an acronym. And during that series of events, which was in total called the Dark Reign, we got a dark team of X-Men. We had the Avengers under the lead of Norman Osborn. We had Blotter. How are you doing today? There was just a lot of stuff going on, but at the end of the day, the heroes prevailed, but there was a massive siege on Asgard, and that's kind of what this follows. This follows the siege on Asgard. Osborn on camera in front of the world. By the way, his own problem. He created his own situation. He's like, you know what? We're going to televise this assault on Asgard because they're on. Oh, thank you. He's like, we're going to televise this assault on Asgard because they're on American land, and we're going to blah, blah, whatever, just propaganda nonsense. So he brings all the cameras with, and during the whole situation, gets his butt kicked, and because of that, has this goblin moment on camera, on live television, and then Norman Osborn is finally outed as the Goblin. And that's where we are. Asgard has fallen. Hammer has been shut down, and we're just all picking up the pieces, which is what this is. It was called the Heroic Age. It was the return, after the Secret Empire, after the Civil War, after the Dark Reign. We needed to brighten it up, We needed to get things a little up there, and we are in the heroic age. This was actually a limited series. It was 4 issues, and it was kind of just little slices of life throughout the Marvel Universe following the events of Dark Reign. This is probably, for the first one, J. Jonah Jameson, thumb on the pulse. J. Jonah Jameson at this point had become mayor of New York City, which I thought was very interesting due to his kind of, I mean, I guess really not, if you're going to put somebody who's just loud and talks a lot of trash into office, it's got to be J. Jonah Jameson, right? And, we have J. Jonah Jameson as mayor, and he's kind of always had this thing, right? It was always Spider-Man, Human Menace, or Spider-Man, Menace. That was always the headline because that was what Spider-Man was to him. That's what all the heroes were to him. J. Jonah Jameson has never liked costumed heroes. That's always been his thing. He, in this, is now kind of trying to plan this big speech about how he's going to rally people against the Avengers and against all the heroes, because it doesn't matter if they're heroes or villains. They're just fighting. They're always just fighting, and they're fighting on our land and destroying our buildings, etc., etc. And he's essentially going to try to take this, for us, the readers, tragedy. Here are the shots that he's reading in his research. There's that goblin moment. He's going to try to take all of this that's happened and turn it, PR spin, classic politician move. And he's going to try to get people on his side, right? People are going to agree with him now. They've seen what happens when heroes just run rampant. And he says they need somebody like them, one of them who's not separate, who's not away from them. And then he realizes, I'm being driven around in a car. You know what? I'm going to step outside. I'm going to walk the streets to take in this city. As he's walking, he's still recording his thing. He's trying to figure out how he's going to phrase it all. And then as he's doing it, a literal tsunami is about to hit Madrid. Or, I'm sorry, that says Mississippi. I don't know. New Madrid? Yeah, it was the New Madrid fault that was triggered. I don't know how that's in Mississippi. I'm not really sure. My geography is terrible. Anyway, an enormous tsunami is about to hit Mississippi, coastal Mississippi, and the Avengers show up, and they're wrecking it. They're killing it. They're doing it, and he's like, "Yeah, this is it right here." They're gonna see him. They're just doing whatever they want to do, and then people are like, "Yeah, go Avengers," and he's like, "Dang!" So don't these people know? It's all nonsense, it's all garbage, and here the people are just like, yeah, finally someone's back on our side, right? Someone's going to bat for us. And he walks away, and he says, hey, that speech we were going to do, cut it. Do a new speech where we're talking about how much the Avengers have done good for us, and, again, the people are already on that mentality. They're already going to trying to fight these heroes, and he's like, you know what? Sometimes to lead, you got to get out in front of wherever they're going anyway. And I thought that was a brilliant line. I thought that was really well written. Because he's like, you know what? But save all the drafts of that other speech, because you never know. You never know. Which is, again, classic politician. I thought it was a very good little slice into that corner of the world. His mayoral reign kind of comes into play in the Spider-Man book that comes out of the heroic age. Rather, the Spider-Man stories. The books were all still there. But, yeah, it's a very interesting take. Next, we have a slice of life from the day in the life of the Sorcerer Supreme. Now, I know what you're thinking if you're not deep into the Marvel Comics universe. The Sorcerer Supreme is Dr. Stephen Strange, right? No. Essentially, he was told that he was no longer worthy, and someone else is going to take over, and Brother Voodoo was the guy. So they gave him the Eye of Agamotto, the Book of the Vishanti, and all the books. And yeah, he was the guy. Except he was also sharing his body with his brother, and that gets a little weird. Never have any privacy. So he's trying to have this date. He's like, "Yo, we gotta go. Everyone's gonna die. If these guys come through and they establish a beachhead in our world, dates aren't really gonna matter anymore." He's like, "All right, fine, let's go." Comes back, and this is the second time. This is the second time he's ducked out on a date. He's like, oh, no, don't go. Trust me. Let me explain myself. But somebody followed him from the fight. He's like, son of a... So he goes, he fights this goblin thing, and I don't know what he did to it, because right here, he was fighting it. The thing was about to stab him in the face. And then he had ripped off the flower that was on him. There's a flower right there. I don't know if he turned him into that flower or what exactly happened. But anyway, this is about trying to get back to normalcy. I think each of these is a little kind of theme of what you do after kind of really bad events, really terrible stuff. And yeah, this is just about getting back to normalcy. He's just trying to get some. I think that's about as normal as anything gets. That's as American as apple pie. Next, we have a peek over the border into over the ocean rather into England, where now, by the way, in the theme of deposing the leader of the current establishment, so Nick Fury got ousted by Tony Stark. Tony Stark got ousted by Norman Osborn, and once Norman Osborn was taken down, Steve Rogers, recently returned from the dead, takes over as the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. Also, as the supreme overlord of the Avengers, I don't even know what to call him. All I know is he was kind of running the show across the board. He was running S.H.I.E.L.D., he was running 3 or 4 Avengers teams, one of which was like a stealth covert ops team, which that was a good read. We'll get to those. I've got some of those. But yeah. It also has one of my favorite characters of all time, Pete Wisdom. Pete Wisdom is a classic cynic, and he is super against Captain Britain, who is England's kind of... I wouldn't even say Captain America. He's like their next level. He's their Superman, right? But the thing is, Captain Britain, like a really condensed version is that his whole story is that he is magically connected to England. He is kind of not the spirit of, but he's like the guardian of England, and the land is protected by him of all sorts of various threats. And Captain America's like, yo, you want to be an Avenger? Like, big time, you know. And he's like, oh, what? And Pete Wisdom, who apparently is his counterpart over there, he's like, no. This is ours. This is ours. We did something for ourselves. We're gonna keep this. And then the other hero's like, why are you an asshole? And he's like, fine. No, it's fine. You take him. And he's like, hope it doesn't kill us. Hope my altruism doesn't kill us. Again, in a return to normalcy, Spider-Man's fighting some dude, and it's like, it's a brand new Age of Shiny. Everyone can tell the good guys from the bad guys, and people just start throwing stuff at him, and they're blaming him for tying up Fifth Avenue and calling him a menace. And yeah, it's what happens, right? It's what happens. He's like, there's no place like home, because that's what it's always been for Peter Parker, Spider-Man. He's always had to deal with that, and for him, he doesn't need to be a big ass hero. He's just this dude, and he takes it all in stride. Then in Volume 2, Section 2, Issue 2 of this, we touch base with Gravity again, trying to find the value of being a hero. He's wondering, you know what? I'm done. I'm just going to go. I'm going to quit. I'm going to live my life. And then, there's an explosion, as there tend to be in comic books. And then he's calling, and he's calling support. But the problem is, he realizes there are people, and there is a threat in this guy who apparently is the bastard son of the Radioactive Man. And he's like, you know what, I'm going to fight this dude, try to stop him. And essentially, in this fight, he figures out, one more hero is going to make a difference, and I'm going to keep being a hero. Then subsequently, we apparently set up a series called American Son. This is supposed to be Harry Osborn. At least that's the setup, because American Son was the persona that Norman Osborn tried to give him when he was the Iron Patriot and leader of the Avengers, kind of to give him more, what's the word I'm looking for? More of a appeal. I did like the what is it? Where's the thing right there? There it is. One of the things I found out about was the American Son Project, a suit of armor built for his son Harry Osborn, sort of a My First Iron Man, I guess, which is like a toy reference, which is fantastic. So I thought that was pretty hilarious. Peter Parker shows up and he's like, this, you can't just go around stabbing people through the chest. Also, I thought this was like a super not proportionate response. Like, he stabbed a dude in the chest in the middle of like a town square, potentially New York, and it's like, it's, I mean, I wasn't here for the whole thing. Maybe he was a vampire. I don't know what's going on. Like, just that was very interesting. Like, clearly this is a story about American Son, but like, we're just kind of glancing over the fact that he stabbed a dude through the chest. And it follows. I don't know her name, actually. Did they cover her name? Nora something? No. I forget who she is. She might have been from the Frontline books. The Frontline books in Marvel, when they do these big events, they show kind of a, from the Frontline perspective, it's usually at the hand of, through the eyes, rather, of the reporter. So I think she might have been coming from that. And clearly she takes a chance to, takes the opportunity to like dig deep into American Son and figure out what's going on. I like that Phil Urich is Ben Urich is like the new Robbie Robertson, which I thought was hilarious. He's like in charge. Yeah, Frontline. Yeah, because Ben Urich left. That's what it was. Frontline is the magazine he started. Because, J. Jonah Jameson. This is like people who are pretty much villains. Yeah, it's just like this like kind of ragtag team of villains. Like, I don't really know how to describe them. They were the primary antagonists in one of the Initiative books, and they're kind of just arguing. I thought this was like a really weird piece. Although the artist is Mark Bagley, who like I've talked to personally on several occasions. And it's like the art is so far superior to the actual story that's being presented, and I just thought it was hilarious. But I do love the layout. It reads top left to right, and then it goes down on the bottom left, and then goes right. Which I just really dig the layout and how it was done to just like, execute it really well in 2 pages. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, it doesn't matter, right? Hero, villain, they're just words. But then they see Thor, and Thor's like, the guy. He's the hero. Gauntlet is a really dope character in Marvel. He's a alien cyborg arm-powered soldier. The key there is that he's an active soldier. So it's not like he used to be a soldier and now he's a hero. He's still like literally, I mean, I think he's at Camp Leatherneck, yeah. He's in Afghanistan in this scene. And they're just talking about like, oh man, it's so cool, like Steve Rogers is back as Captain America, and Thor's back and back on the Avengers, and like Iron Man's not a jerk this week. And they're like, why wouldn't you want to join the Avengers? Because they had asked him to join. And he's like, from where I'm sitting, the real heroes never left. And it's kind of it's a nod to our servicemen and women. I thought that was really cool. In the next book, Victoria Hand was like Osborn's right hand during the story. In what was it in? Was she a hero? She might have been a hero in the Winter Soldier movie. That was the Hydra movie, right? Yeah, that was the Hydra movie. So during Winter Soldier, you saw Victoria Hand, but I feel like, and she was a badass. And she ended up being on the show too. She ended up being on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So it was really cool. She's kind of a get it done character. Like she's really, really cool, and just will do whatever is necessary. She was working for Osborn, but it's not like she believed in what he was doing. It was just kind of like, that's what she does, that's what she's good at, and that's what she was doing, like kind of managing situations and running the show. Then you also have Maria Hill and Sharon Carter, who is Captain America's longtime flame. And here is kind of a preview into the what did they call them? Secret Avengers? I feel like it was called Secret Avengers. Anyway, she's got some sort of sickness. I forget what it is. But the Absorbing Man runs through the the hall. They have him turn into Crystal, shoot him. Again, it's just kind of a quick action romp, but it's a preview into the Secret Avengers book because Sharon Carter becomes a Secret Avenger. And then, was it prior to this? No, after this, because she's technically an Avenger, she ends up somehow getting Captain America's powers, if I recall correctly. Something along those lines. Anyway, it was just kind of like hey, watch these characters, they're important. Same thing with Blue Marvel. I think Blue Marvel did get his own series. Blue Marvel's kind of like the Superman of Marvel. Technically, Hyperion is the Superman of Marvel, but he's a bad guy. But he's like, he lives on the moon. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The Mariana Trench? Isn't it Marianas? I feel like that's spelled wrong. Anyway, the like super deep trench. He lives in that. He kind of like pulled away from the hero stuff. He was around the suit right in the middle there. I know you can't see my cursor, but right in the middle where it's like Batman suit. It's in the tube. That's his like 90s 80s costume. But he sees this as like nobody on the scene. Although I think it's funny because they say the Winter Guard are there, and the Winter Guard, to my recollection, had been dead at this point. So I don't remember. I don't know how they explain that. Yeah, he kind of goes out there, and same thing like with the Gravity story. He finds like why he should be a hero and why, because he's like he's talking to the Watcher, and he's like, I'm not gonna go out there. It's all politics. I'm not trying to like get in trouble for accidentally doing something. Essentially, it's like I'm not trying to play games when I want to. Well, what I want to do is just be a superhero and protect people. And this situation where he goes out, he saves people from Hyperion, and this little girl is like, "Thank you." He's like, "You know what? Maybe there is a reason to be a hero." So then he just showed doing all these kind of Superman-like things, or bringing food and aid and things, and going to Haiti, Ecuador, Paris, Singapore, just doing some stuff, getting some work done. Taskmaster again came out from Taskmaster was he a bad guy in the Initiative? He was kind of a throwaway for like all of the 70s, 80s, 90s. It was just like, we want a really cool fight. Let's bring in Taskmaster. He's not like a leader per se. He's just he's an assassin. He's like Deathstroke. He's really like Deathstroke from DC. But then, like, in the mid-2000s, they kind of started making him interesting. He was part of something different. He was part of bigger organizations. And then just would kind of show up way more often. So people knew who he was. Then he got his own series. Squirrel Girl, again, she had, I think she had quit the... Maybe she didn't quit the Avengers. What do they call them? The Great Lakes Avengers? I think originally it was Great Lakes Avengers, and then it was the Great Lakes X-Men. She's like C-list heroes. And what's funny here is that this is kind of the era where they were trying to bring her back in. They were trying to make her more of a thing. And it ended up kind of working. Because she was created in like the 90s. And I think she was on the Great Lakes Avengers, and it was like not good. Like, the stories were not good, the art was not good. Her name is Squirrel Girl. Like, it's not good stuff. However, she got her own series, and she's like now one of the most popular characters, which is, I think, crazy. But the books are written really well, and it's like really interesting. So, yeah. Now we have the last one. I actually didn't get a chance to read. Well, not read again, rather. I've read it, but it was like a long time ago. And this is Shuri. If you've seen the Black Panther movie, Shuri becomes, in the comics, she becomes Black Panther for a while. I don't recall if there was actually magical powers bestowed upon her in the comics. I know she became Black Panther, and that's what mattered. She goes into a fight to kind of justify that she can whoop some ass. Really, that's all it is. She whoops the dude's ass, and she's like, "I'm the Black Panther." That's all it is. Let's see. Fairfax, Alaska. This Man of God. This is the talk of when they found Captain America, the frozen Captain America. I'm gonna butcher this. I want to say native, but I feel like there's a different name for people that live in Alaska that were there originally. But anyway, the native population of Alaska, one of the tribes found Captain America frozen. They had worshipped him as a god. And then Namor shows up and he's like, "What is this? This is my friend." And then he takes him back, and then the Avengers find him, and that's kind of history. And like the kid's like, I don't believe you. You're full of crap. That's all it is. It's like faith. And then we have the Zodiac. Again, another kind of just plot device. There was a thing in the early 2000s, late 90s. They keep bringing back this character, and I think it's ridiculous. He's just never that interesting. But yeah. Well, in this case, it was characters. But the Zodiac was like a group that was very loosely associated, and they would like share the Zodiac key, and I don't even remember what actually came of all that originally, but anyway. So somehow, I don't know what office he was put in. Cloud9 was a very interesting situation because that was during the when it was the Avenger Initiative. They made it illegal after the Superhero Registration Act, which if you've seen Avengers 2, you know what that is. Rather, Civil War. What am I talking about? After the Superhero Registration Act, you had to join. It was not optional. It was like, if you had powers, you had to join. War Machine came up on this girl flying in the clouds in the outfit here at the end, and he was like, "What is your name?" And she's like, "I'm Abby." And he's like, "No, what? Stop it!" He's like, "Your what is your code name?" And they like recruited her like mid-flight, and he's like, "You have to sign, you have to join, and you have to be trained, or we're gonna shut you down." And I love this. I do love this. And he says, "You're kind of the shit. I was hoping you'd become one of the trainers at the academy." She says that in order. He says a request. Doesn't say here anything about my superhero license. About as my first act in office was to revoke the Registration Act. It's over. And here's my question. I don't remember what position he was put in, because to say that he has the position to revoke a legal bill in the United States of America, he'd have to be the president, I'm pretty sure, and it'd have to be an executive action. Like, I don't know exactly what... I don't know. I really don't know how they, like, play that out. And then there's just a bunch of art, and I dig that. I like that they show off a bunch of stuff. Hero Past of Atlas, the Atlas era, 1950s Atlas era. They brought all these characters, 3D Man, Gorilla Man. Although that's not the original 3D Man. I don't know why they used that picture. M11, the human robot. Again, it was very, very similar. They brought up these new stories, kind of redone. They had repainted these. These are old stories that they got repainted. It's very interesting to watch stories from the like 70s and 80s and how they were done, how the art, how it was done. We'll talk about that way more in a couple weeks, a few weeks probably. Yeah, just kind of a flashback. And again, touching that scroll thing. The cool thing about 3D Man was a 3D man, could see through disguises, which is why he was really useful during, or at least the new 3D man was really useful during the Secret Invasion, or at least towards the end of it. Yeah, it was Secret Avengers. There it is. Beast, Valkyrie, Nova, Moon Knight, and War Machine. Although that changed, and like, they were not very secret. A lot of the stuff was like off-world. I think the first 3 stories were like off-planet, or at least 2 of the first 3, let's say. It was very interesting. Yeah, Sharon Carter is like, I think she was on the Secret Avengers. Yeah, that's what I was saying right there. Then the irredeemable Ant-Man. So neither Scott Lang nor Hank Pym. It was, what is his name? I don't remember his name. But yeah, that was the team. This is kind of, I love when they do the art. Process art is like my crack cocaine. Like seeing this stuff, I love seeing design stuff like this whole Captain America thing right here, where it shows how they were designing him, how they went around. Although I think that first one's ridiculous, super duper ridiculous. And you can see kind of how it like grew and evolved, and I dig it. I also love, and I wish, and it's from one of my I want to say country folk, but it's not country. It's like region, because I don't know, Djurjevic might be Croatian or something. But yeah, the redesign was done by Marko Djurjevic. I feel like that's probably Serbian or Croatian. But it's just, I love the process, and it's very much inspired from the first American, which is like a whole other story that we'll get into one day, I hope. But it's cool because he had that costume, and then that made it into Winter Soldier as like the covert suit. And this is the Avengers Academy, the new peeps, the new in training teams. And this is a touch of the actual primary Avengers book, with art by Jim Chung, who is one of my favorites. He's really good. Just all over the place. Fastball Special, my favorite. I also love that. Because Bucky is Captain America in this here. Like, what are you doing? Oldie but a goodie, and I love that everyone knows what the fastball special is. It looks like a frost giant is attacking New York. Oh, is this a flashback? Yeah, when they... That's gotta be a flashback. Some of the greatest stuff, where you realize that most of the stuff is really kind of... You have the scene where Osborn's trying to posture, and he's like, I've got Ares, and he's badass, you know. Okay, like, yeah, we stopped the thing, but now it's like everyone's ready to fight, because the Avengers at this time were still on the run from Norman's Avengers. And Thor's like, nobody can move. You go. And I love that. All due respect, Thor, but this is absolutely none of your concern. Do you wish to do battle with me today? Right here? No? Then you go. Then you go right now. I love that. You and I shall have words another day. It's completely up to you how that might go. And that's essentially, this is like how, this was the inciting incident for Siege. He kind of embarrassed him. That's, Osborn's ego. Is this from the Avengers book or this is from Tales of Suspense? Oh, it's from Iron Man. I didn't see this one. Early Avengers stuff. Classic. The Astonishing X-Men. Yeah, this was kind of like hits of little stuff going on. Here's where I think this was the setup for... Was this the setup for... Can't think if this was the setup for the other Hulk storyline, because Amadeus Cho was the smartest dude in the Marvel Universe. He was like 15 or something, and he was friends with the Hulk, and it was very interesting. But I don't remember if this was the setup for when he... I mean, it was all a long setup, essentially. What was the book that this is premiering? Amazing Fantasy 15. Okay, so this was just like a side story. But the thing about this is that it's... this dog, I swear. She's trying to dig herself under the blanket. This eventually would lead into Amadeus Cho also becoming a Hulk. So, yeah, very interesting stuff. This is Thunderbolts kind of got a redesign again for the 47th time. I love the Thunderbolts concept. I always have ever since it started. I think Thunderbolts is one of the best and most underused series and concepts ever. Loved the entire first run, first issue to the last. So well done. The like kind of in between Thunderbolts thing was weird. The like cage fighting or whatever. I never actually read it. I love that that Mach 1 kept upgrading, and just every subsequent version was just another Mach. So by this time he was up to Mach 5. Which isn't that a razor? Fixer had at this point died twice, I think. I love that Juggernaut was on the team. I think Juggernaut is very good when played as a hero. I think it's very interesting. And I think that is it in the book. Yeah. Young Allies, which Gravity falls into once he realizes that everything is cool and you can be a hero again. Young Allies is the thing that happens. But what I think is very interesting is that they have Firestar on it. Because they try to play Firestar way younger than she is. Like, she's in her 20s at the absolute very least. She was a New Mutant, like an original New Mutant. She's been an Avenger. So to have her be in the Young Allies, I thought was really weird. And like to give her old stupid costume, I thought was even weirder. I really enjoyed her costume in the 90s and early 2000s. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a very strange thing. I never did read that series, but maybe by the time we hit Y, I will have, and we'll be able to touch on that. I also love that this statue is Captain Britain on the Age of Heroes thing, not the original, not the Avengers. That's it. Don't know who else. Who's still with me here? That's weird. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. Is why. Adley and Ducky. Adley, I think, is just monitoring. I don't know if you're around, Adley. You haven't voiced any opinions or thoughts on this, so Blotter was the only one to say something. Say some nice stuff. Digs the layout. But yeah, that's it for this week. Next week, provided that no other life things come in the way, as life tends to do, we'll have our guest, and I'll say right now, I'll give you guys a preview. It is Michael Heitkemper, the book right here, Acts of Contrition from Insane Comics, which is actually a local Chicago area comic book publisher. Really excited about that. I think it's going to be Really good conversation. It's like a mafia. It's like mafia meets angels. Like that's the setup. So yeah, that should be fun. For those listening and watching in the future, make sure you give us a review on the podcast. If you're listening on the podcast, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you hit like and subscribe. Subscribe to the main channel, of course. Link right down here. Right down here. Yeah, make sure check us out all over the things. And then, of course, we do this live on Caffeine every single week. Caffeine.tv/T3G Media. Check us out. Join the conversation. Otherwise, it's just me talking to a camera and Edley watching me, kind of. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.